Alright, hello everyone. Welcome to another NFL team preview video for the 2020 season. Today we're talking about the Jacksonville Jaguars. We're going to wrap up the AFC South today, move on to the AFC West, starting with the next video in the Kansas City Chiefs. But today's focus is the Jacksonville Jaguars, who, if you asked me, I believe could assert themselves as the definition in the dictionary of what could have been. This defense a couple years ago was pretty scary and definitely threatening to opposing offenses as it powered its way to the AFC title game despite the awful play of Blake Bortles, who is no longer around, of course. And I think for people, at least for me, I really need to sort of let that go, let that season go, because ever since then, this team has just not been the same. The personnel is finally changing over, and we're definitely looking at a rebuild as the Jaguars head into 2020. They've made some interesting choices in terms of personnel. The draft was pretty good. They had two solid first-round picks and a couple of guys they got later on that I really like. And in free agency and in as far as just the trade market in general with the roster, they've said goodbye to several key veterans who will need to be replaced and might even be missed dearly. So before we get into the roster, let's go ahead and take a look at the 2019 recap. They finished 6-10 overall. Offense ranked 20th in the league, 16th in passing, 17th in rushing, so they were kind of in the middle for both. Defense ranked 24th overall, long cry away from that 2017 season. They were 16th against the pass and 28th against the run. Your head coach is Doug Marrone, who enters his fourth season with a career record of 37-45. Snapshot of the previous 4 years: you had 5-11 season in 2018, the 10-6 season in 2017, 2016 they were 3-13, and in 2015 they were 5-11. So it's one really good year sandwiched between a couple of years of just mediocrity and poor performances. So let's go ahead and take a look at this projected starting depth chart. I guess you could say I don't really have a good segue for that, as if you haven't figured out yet by this video. So starting off with the safeties, we have Ronnie Harrison and Jared Wilson, who make up a pretty decent safety tandem, but they are going to need to do better. And probably the most significant part of this defense is the secondary overturn. They now no longer have A.J. Bouye, who was in Denver, and Jalen Ramsey was traded to the Rams. So now they have used one of their 2 first-round picks on C.J. Henderson, the corner from Florida, who I'm actually very excited about because he was one of the first players that I scouted last year in August with the Florida Gators. And the one thing that was the big criticism against him was his tackling. But he made a very good point at the Combine when he said the following: you don't sign big-name free agent corners to long extensions because they're really good at tackling. You do it because they're really good at coverage, and that's what he's good at. So I think he should excel at the next level, and he'll definitely draw the attention of the opposing team's number 1 wide receivers. On the other side, you have Trey Herndon, who took over for Ramsey after the trade, and they also have DJ Hayden on the roster, who should fill in as a nickel guy more often than not, I would think. For the linebackers, Miles Jack moves over to the weak side. Joe Schobert is the free agent from Cleveland, who will take over in the middle, probably also taking over play calling duties. And then you have Jacobs on the strong side, but I believe that the way this defense works is you'll see probably him sub out more often for a nickel corner. On the defensive line, I don't have Unique Ngakoue listed here because I believe that his time as a Jaguar has probably come to an end. If he doesn't get traded, maybe he just opts out. I don't know. But I've been trying to think of how to handle this situation, because with the New York Jets video, I didn't list Jamal Adams as a potential starter at his position because I believed that the trade rumors were going to come to fruition, and lo and behold, they did. So I'm kind of in the same boat for this situation, because I believe somebody like Nick Ngakoue can be traded, and they have his backup that they used, or they have his replacement, I guess you could say, that they used one of their first overall draft picks on. And that is, of course, K'Lavon Chaisson from LSU. Moving on, we have Jones and Woods, and then on the other side, we have Josh Allen, who had a monster rookie season with 10.5 sacks. One of my favorite players coming out of last year's draft. He was probably I would probably say like my number 2 overall rated player coming out of the draft after Nick Bosa. Absolutely love him. I think he's going to do wonders for Jacksonville for years to come. All right, so that's the defense in a nutshell. They have to do a lot better against the run to fix that 28th against the run defense. Moving on to the offense, we have Cam Robinson at the left tackle. We have Norwell, Lindor, Cam, and Juwan Taylor as your right tackle. Cam Robinson has been shaky since his injury, and I wouldn't be surprised if he gets replaced in the next 1 or 2 years. Juwan Taylor is probably their best offensive lineman right now. I really liked him at Florida. I was surprised that he fell as far as he did, but he's got a lot of work to do himself. For the tight end, we have Tyler Eifert this year, and we also have Josh Oliver, who I'm actually more interested in. You know, Tyler Eifert's been around for a while. Josh Oliver has 1 year under his belt. Not a lot of production. I think he only caught maybe like 3 or 4 balls last year, but I'm still interested to see what that kid can do. Your wide receivers, DJ Chark, D.D. Westbrook, Laviska Shenault Jr., who was the second-round pick, I believe second round, if I remember correctly. They also have Conley. So this is a pretty deep wide receiver group, and I think probably the strength of the offense. Now the question is going to be, can your starting quarterback, Gardner Minshew, have enough time to get to the ball? And I believe that the offense, the guy's name escapes me, but I believe the offensive coordinator that is stepping in for DeFilippo, it's Jay Gruden, that's who it is. I can't believe I couldn't remember that. He's going to incorporate a lot of 3-step drops into this offense to get the ball out more quickly. So I think DJ Chark is, just to go off kilter here for a second, I think DJ Chark is probably one of the most promising younger wide receivers in this league. So I wouldn't be surprised if he takes another step further after his 1,000-yard season last year. I believe he had 1,000 yards. I'm not going to check. Somebody can fact check me. And then your running back is, of course, Leonard Fournette, who, now this is another part of that situation where there's trade rumors about him, but I do have him listed as the starting running back for this depth chart because I don't believe anybody really wants him. So I think what they're going to have to do is probably just cut him at the end of the year, because with the amount of time that's gone past and for how long that we've known that the Jaguars have been shopping Leonard Fournette, and the fact that they haven't been able to pull the trigger for anything, leads me to believe that he's stuck here. And I don't think that they're going to find a trade partner that's going to be willing to take him. Now, maybe it's because he is who he is, or maybe it's because the Jaguars are asking for too much in return, which is definitely a possibility. But for now, I don't envision him being moved off of this team. And it would be interesting if they did, because yes, they did sign Chris Thompson in free agency to be sort of the pass-catching running back. But this team doesn't have like T.J. Yeldon anymore. They have, I believe it's what's his name? Raquel Armstead, I think is how you pronounce it. And there's one other, a Zigbo from Nebraska that they have too. So it would be an interesting backfield if Leonard Fournette was no longer with this team. So it would be a significant downgrade, in my opinion, despite how maybe the Jaguars may be tired of Leonard Fournette. I still think they need him for a little bit longer. So that is the depth chart for the Jacksonville Jaguars, potential starting depth chart. Let's go ahead and take a look at the schedule. Open the season against the Colts, on the road game against the Titans. We have the Dolphins at home, a 2-game road trip with the Bengals and the Texans, home game against the Lions, Chargers at home or on the road, and Texans at home. Bye week is week 7. I don't really see anything that really stands out to me as really like a problem or a trend, with the first half of that schedule. The divisional games will definitely be tough, but they got the Dolphins, the Bengals, the Texans, the Chargers, the Lions, teams that I don't think should really be that competitive this year. Maybe Houston. I'll throw a bone to Texans fans. The second half of the schedule is pretty brutal. You have the Packers on the road in Green Bay. You have the Steelers and Browns at home. I expect the AFC North to be hyper-competitive this year. You have the Vikings on the road. That's always a tough game. The Titans at home. The Ravens on the road. The Bears at home. And then you end the season on the road against the Colts. So I think the second half will be the nail in the coffin for the Jacksonville Jaguars. I don't anticipate Gardner Minshew to put together a miracle season for the Jaguars and get them to the playoffs. Now, that could change. Obviously, we don't know. I mean, it's a crapshoot. The season hasn't started. Everybody has an equal opportunity. But that second half of the schedule is just a little too daunting in my mind. And I believe Doug Marrone is probably on the short list for being the first NFL coach to be fired this season. So how much of an opportunity is he actually going to have to get them across the finish line in decent shape? So that actually is a good segue into our 3 big storylines that I'm looking at. Number 1, Leonard Fournette. Is he going to get traded? I sort of covered this. I don't think it's going to happen, but it's still something that they have time to figure out. The second big storyline I'm looking at was the aforementioned Doug Marrone. How much of a leash does he have? This is a team that's definitely in transition. It was kind of a surprise that they kept both the general manager and the head coach heading into this year. When you figured you could begin rebuilding right now, it looks like they're holding it off just for at least another season to see how Gardner Minshew does. And then finally, number 3, could this just be a tank? Last year we thought the Dolphins were going to be the team to tank for Tua Tagovailoa. Could this be the team that ends up tanking for Trevor Lawrence? Or maybe they put themselves in position to get Justin Fields. I don't know. But if you were to ask, I think a lot of people that this is the team that could potentially have the most to gain by throwing in the towel, if I could put it that way. I mean, no team, I don't believe any team is going to go out there and tank. I think Brian Flores proved that last year. He did a phenomenal job with that roster that he had after all the stars got traded away, like Laramie Tunsil and Kenyon Drake. To be able to put together a 5-win season, I think was pretty remarkable. So the Jaguars probably could luck themselves into the first overall pick to get Trevor Lawrence. It's definitely a possibility, but there might be worse teams out there than this right now. So that's going to do it for the Jacksonville Jaguars 2020 team preview. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.